Okay, all right. Call to order. The first thing we'll do for our meeting at 7 o'clock is the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First is roll call. Ms. Bullmacher.
Here.
Mr. Chandler is online.
Yes, can you hear me?
Ms. Capitello.
Here.
Mr. Wolf. Here. Mr. Oliverio. Here. Ms. McCallum.
Here.
Mayor Perry. Here. Solicitor Portable. Here. Engineer Keenan. Here. And myself, we have a quorum. Great. I want to make sure my little remote mic went out. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay. It's good? Okay. Might not be as loud. Try to speak louder. The consent agenda, the approval of the council meeting minutes from September 26, 2024, and the bill list from October 10th of 2024. All these were on the OneDrive for council members. So looking for a motion to approve the October 10th consent agenda pending bill list approval by the borough president, manager, and treasurer.
So moved.
Ms. Bollenbacher.
Second.
Oh, Mr. Hope, second. Any questions or discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay. At this time, citizens may address the Grafton Borough Council on any issue appearing on today's agenda. Only residents and taxpayers of the borough of Grafton will be permitted to address the council. Comments on non-agenda items will be taken at the end of tonight's meeting. Speakers will be permitted to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes. Groups of people will be required to designate a spokesperson to represent them before the council, who may speak for a maximum of 5 minutes. Council has the option to respond or not at the end of the address. The solicitor will be the assigned timekeeper. Please state your name and physical address for the record. Yes. We'll go through these folks, then we'll go through the folks on Zoom. First one, Jan Sweeney. Wow.
Good evening, Jan Sweeney, 25 Lincoln Avenue. I have 3 concerns for the planning commission. When we had the open house the other night, we had talked about, well, I talked with Jim and several people talked with Jim about Park Street being changed to neighborhood residential, and I see on the new draft, it's still listed as community residential. The second was, we had talked about leaving the lot width at 50 foot, and it's still on there as 40 foot. And the transient housing short-term rentals are still listed as C for both neighborhood residential and community residential. So I didn't know if anybody had taken any of those things into consideration and decided to just leave it as is. I was just calling it to attention. And my fourth thing was the C20 bump outs. You guys were going to talk about that, and I didn't know if you had done that.
Yeah. Can you repeat the second one?
Sure. The 40 foot lot width.
And that was where?
It's in the neighborhood residential and community residential
Yeah.
planning commission.
Okay. Yes, I have the Park Street at 10R, the 40 width lot. For
Yes.
the neighborhood residential C20 bump outs and transient housing.
Yes.
On,
Those were my 4 concerns.
okay,
Okay.
thank you.
And just an update for everyone, none of those changes have been made yet because those are changes that the planning commission are considering. They're meeting at a workshop next week, and then they have their formal meeting the week after. And so these are all, in fact, they received a memo with all of these requests because we compiled them because I got some, Mike got some, AJ got some, everybody got different ones. So we compiled them all together in a big memo with information, and all of these are in there.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yep.
And the bump outs.
The bump outs, yeah, we're gonna talk about it briefly today. Larry, but very generally, I can confirm one thing, right now, but there's still, there's some changes in design happening. But none of the bump outs are on sides of the street where parking is allowed. I can confirm that. So no parking is being claimed by any of these on those 3 streets. So,
One of the things we talked about at the last meeting was we need to relook at the whole design
yeah,
again, because it's been so long since we even looked at it. So council needs to look at it, community needs to look at it before we make any decisions on that.
yeah, and then we're gonna, and that's, there was a couple tweaks. We had discussions with the engineers, who designed the project. Was it yesterday or was it Wednesday? Yeah, so yesterday. So there's a couple tweaks that have to be made. We hope to be able to bring it back as a discussion, so everybody can see exactly how the plans are laid out. And and council hasn't seen the updated plans either, so they'll be, hopefully at the next meeting, we anticipate them being discussed.
Great, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks, Jerry. Okay, next Cody, she's,
Say Mark again.
I'm gonna go for this, okay. All right, next is Debbie Hughes.
Living is 27 Lincoln Avenue. I've lived in the borough since 1966. And I've lived on Lincoln for 46 years. I've got 2 concerns, one the rezoning. And the second is the C20 sewer project. For the rezoning, I'm upset that the changes that we discussed at the open house were not in the draft. It seemed like everyone there was open to hearing what we had to say. But I'm hoping that the concerns did fall on deaf ears. Council was elected to represent the residents, and the residents that are aware of these changes and the residents that are aware of the changes are not on board. Jim, Mike, and the engineers don't live in the borough, so they won't be affected by these changes. These changes are not affecting your neighborhoods, just ours. We pay your salaries, and each of us have a right to request the changes we want and don't want in our neighborhoods. Whether or not they align with your personal agendas, and whether or not they go along with the Allegheny County push for rezoning for affordable housing. The grant money riding on these changes, along with adding the rezoning effort to your resumes, has to be the fuel behind this. Otherwise, why would the residents' concerns and our neighborhoods not be the priority? We are 1 square mile, not Pittsburgh, not Dormont, not Robinson, or any other large municipality with a large business district. As Tammy Sorka stated at the open house, what we have now is the reason people moved to Crafton in the past, and it's the reason people still want to move to Crafton. And I agree. And for the C20 sewer project, me living on Lincoln will be highly affected by this. And I'm dead set against the bump outs. The streets are narrow. When the bump outs were done on Crafton Boulevard, we were told the traffic needed to be slowed down because of the school. Now supposedly bump outs are being considered to slow down the flow of water. Lincoln Avenue does need sewers. So dig up Lincoln Avenue, put in the sewers. We don't need the bump outs. Parking has always been a problem in the area. The streets are congested. Currently, when facing opposing traffic, you hope there's an open space to pull over, or else someone's backing up down towards Steuben or up towards the next floor. Not everyone has a driveway, and if they do, they still have extra vehicles parked on the streets. Bump outs would infringe on the already tight streets, not to mention how are fire trucks and emergency vehicles going to navigate these areas and the tight turning radiuses. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to address anything there?
Yeah, I can address the first thing, the zoning. Again, none of the things have been added because that is up to the planning commission. So last week was to collect all that information. It's all been put in a memo and it was sent to them today. So they have it to review at the Tuesday meeting next week.
Yeah, and I want to emphasize too that a lot of the zoning information, it isn't with the council right now. It is with planning commission and it's time. Like council isn't gonna see it for a long time, so it's a portion of that is with planning commission. So make sure to attend those meetings, go to the open houses. There's lots, Jim will go over some of the things there, and make sure to attend those things and get that information in there before it even comes to council. That's the key, and that's really important. All right. Given that, anybody on Zoom?
I could make one more
Oh,
clarification too. Regarding the bump outs, the reason that you need bump outs for this type of work is it's. The bump out itself is the sewer feature. It is designed to have, to collect water and hold it. And allow it to go more slowly into the combined storm system. So that's why bump outs might be the only way we can go on those streets in that area. So
Let's see what this, yeah.
Sewer grades at the end of the street. Our
The-
street's a grade. It's either level and then it's a grade.
yeah, but we're talking about slowing stormwater into a combined system. Adding new lines is not it's a different solution.
Well, let's
Yeah.
talk about that during the C20
Okay.
project, because at this point, we haven't even seen that, and we really need to see the C20 project again and see how it's all shaped.
Yeah.
So. Okay. Anybody on Zoom, if you'd like to raise your hand? Very good. Next, we'll go into the president's report. Nothing to report tonight. Mayor's report.
Yeah, so I want to start with a public safety announcement. We have, over the last few months, had a rash of vehicles being rifled through. And unfortunately, a lot of this has to do with unlocked vehicles. So I would really strongly suggest that people who can park their cars off the street and still make sure that they're locked, but really make an effort to make sure your vehicles are locked. We just had last night, we had another rash of a number of vehicles being rifled through, and they were all unlocked. You can tell, and the reason that we know this is through everybody's cameras. We can see the kids coming through and just going down the street, looking for open cars, rifling them, and going on to the next. So please lock your vehicles. So that's my main thing tonight. The other thing that I wanted to announce, you might have seen on Savvy Citizen, is our Civil Service Commission is finally, after quite some time, we've gotten all the members, and they've gotten the Civil Service Commission going again, and they are ready and have just put out an advertising for an examination for the police exam. And what I'd like to do is fill a little detail in. We are required, any municipality with a police department, to have a current list of potential candidates for police positions. It does not mean that there is one open now or will be anytime soon. It's just we're required to have a list available. So we're going to be having finally a test, because we've not been in compliance with this rule for quite some time. So anybody who's seeing that, knows anybody who would be interested in testing for the department, please let them know. Please have them look on the website and on Savvy Citizen and make an application, which I believe is open till early November. So that's the second thing. And then with regard to our search, we had our first round of interviews that we talked about at the last meeting. Since our last meeting, we have had our the scores come back. And then just in the last couple of days, we had a second round of interviews with the top scoring candidates. And at this point, deliberations are underway, and we expect to have some information, some announcements in the fairly near very, very near future. So I think that's it for my report tonight.
Question on the civil service, so as they go and take that exam, are they only eligible then for positions in craft and
For that list, yes.
for that list?
Yes.
If they want to work and be a police officer anywhere, they
Take a different test.
They
take a
take,
different test.
and so it's not uncommon if someone's looking to be hired, that they take multiple tests and get on multiple lists.
So then we would have a list in case an officer left or something happened, we would have a list of candidates.
Right, or if we found a bunch of money and could get another officer.
Right. But with that is, if an officer left today, what would happen if we haven't had this list?
We'd have a lot of overtime.
Okay.
So it would blow the budget. And that has been the issue all along. Fortunately, we have a really good, really loyal department, and all of our officers have been here for a long time. It is not that we're anticipating anything, and that's what I really want to get out, is that this is just business as should be usual. And because it's been so long, it's long gone from everybody's memory that this is something we need to do on a regular basis. And basically, we have to renew that list every 2 years.
Every 2 years.
Yes.
Or sooner,
Oh, thank you.
between 1 and 2 years.
Yes.
Depends. A lot of times candidates will take jobs elsewhere.
Well,
And
exactly.
then your list may not
Yes,
have any
that may not really have anybody who's, yes. So anyway, any other questions about any of that? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Good information. Engineers report. Mr. King. Oh, I skip you all the time. It's okay.
Very forgive. There will be an executive session after tonight's meeting to discuss personnel matters. And that's the end of my report.
Engineers report, Mr. Kingman.
Good evening. The first item is the Broadhead Sewer Project. The latest is, Jim and I had a virtual meeting with the EPA last Friday regarding the application. And one of the largest takeaways from that is that a review needs to be done on the project's environmental compliance. And right now, we're currently looking into what needs to be submitted and everything done for that to happen. Another EPA requirement that's getting started is, we need to put together some project correspondence to send out to MBE contractors to let them know of the project's existence and make them aware of it going out to bid. The next item is the stairs project. The last portion of this project is the handrails that need to be going in. Still waiting on a response from the contractor regarding the handrail on Craft and the Walnut and getting a fabrication timeline on that. The safety fencing has been repositioned and stairs have been reblocked off. Moving on, the road paving program, again, this has been completed, but the update is regarding Locust Street, which was not repaved due to an unforeseen water main break at that time. I reached out to the PA American Water Supervisor, Field Operations, and he gave me a small update. All he could really tell me is that with the markings and the cones out on site that the work will happen soon, but was not able to give me a timeline on any other constructions regarding that. Moving on, the PA American Water main replacement, the last street affected by this is Union Avenue, the brick portion. Update is that CCSI contractor has begun work on the sidewalks and the curbs on that street, and that the brick road restoration remains to be completed. Next is the trail feasibility study. Apologies for the delay on this, but the community recruitment post has finally been completed. The edits have been made. Survey has been set up for applicants to submit their applications to, and looking to put that out on Monday.
So all residents are able to apply for that committee.
Correct.
And we use our like Savvy Citizen as well as maybe post to Facebook.
Yeah, we're gonna put it on Facebook, the
Okay.
website, Savvy.
Is there a number that you're looking for on this committee? 10?
I was thinking 10,
Okay,
no more than 10.
okay.
And can you say what this will be doing? So, for the committee,
Say again.
what this group will be doing? It's the trail feasibility. meeting.
Okay, so basically, we are hiring a consultant to put together a trail planning feasibility study. And what the committee will do is help review that, oversee that, provide feedback on the results and give their insight on the trails and like I said, give any feedback that could be beneficial and help be productive to helping get the trails in Crafton more modernized and help improve accessibility, features, and better overall for users.
And as a reminder, this is grant funded, so there is no cost to taxpayers or the borough for this. So,
I'm sure that's true. I think there's a match.
And with the match.
Yeah, I
I
think
think
there's a
I think
match.
it's a half. It's, we got a $39,000 grant and it's a $78,000 project. It's a 50% match.
okay,
Correct.
yeah.
We're down for that, anyone that may be interested. Next item is the Public Works Building, sanitary sewer lateral work is currently out to bid. Today marks the second week for the advertisement. On Tuesday, the 15th, we're gonna have a mandatory pre-bid meeting, and the bid openings will occur on November 5th. The remaining build-out work is also moving forward. The next item, C20 project, in regards to the separation projects, as I said last meeting, Alcoasand had their board meeting to award funds to the selected projects for this cycle's Grow Grant. We did receive our award, but it was unfortunately much less than we had anticipated. Looking forward to a meeting with Tim with Alcoasand next week to discuss this outcome.
And we did, just for everybody, we did discuss that fairly extensively at the budget workshop meeting earlier, because it is about $1 million switch. We thought potentially we're gonna get up to $1 million more than we did. And so we're looking into how we're gonna deal with that in the budget.
Also on this topic is the green infrastructure projects. Again, don't have a real detailed report for you today. Jim and I had a design meeting with Gateway to go over the plans and talk about a bunch of items regarding access and maneuverability for EMS fire vehicles. And those some things that didn't really make them ready to present to tonight. However, will be an item on Monday's infrastructure meeting. Like I said, once we get these, we're also gonna submit them to the fire chief to get his feedback on the project, but looking to get these plans in a better place before we present them. The next item is the Station Street retaining wall. Again, the retaining wall along Station Street and Division shows signs of failure. The first step in getting this project mediated is to do a survey of the affected area, and that work was done yesterday, Wednesday. Next item is the Crafton Public Pool. Again, this project was done several months ago, but wanted to bring it up tonight because now that that work has been completed, the work to pursue the grant, the awarded grant funds is begun. And one of those requirements for DCNR is to submit an as-built plan, which is essentially a post-construction drawing of the work performed. There was a work authorization received for that to not exceed $4,000. It has been, since this was a requirement, has been signed off on and pursued. That work has already been completed, and we're looking to receive that as-built next week. Moving on is the police station garage basement. We did receive the report from the inspection that was done, waiting to get a design proposal from the structural engineer that performed the inspection, as well as recommendations on who can carry out the recommended concrete repair procedures, as noted out in his report. Moving on is the St. Philip's school zone lights poles. I did receive the letter from PennDOT confirming that the school zone has been canceled for St. Philip's, and we have the okay to remove these lights and poles. Wanted to throw in here, there's also a third pole nearby, immediately upslope from the parking lot at St. Philip's that looking to remove. It's extremely rusted out, unused, not actively used for anything in the borough. Looking to have Public Works remove that as well when they remove these poles. Moving on to the last item, more of a FYI of some upcoming People's Natural Gas main work that we received notice of. North Linwood Avenue, North Emily Street, and Coulter Street are all affected by this work. North Linwood, 675 feet in the street, 30 feet in the sidewalk. North Emily Street, 350 feet in the street, 95 feet in the sidewalk. and Coulter, 675 feet in the street, 30 feet in the sidewalk. We reach out to People's Natural Gas regarding these because these streets are also affected by our Broadhead Sewer Project that's been going on next year. Looking to get a contribution agreement for the affected streets so that they, when they do their work, they just restore up to the trench, and then when our project takes place, we can do the paving of those roads so that it does not have to be done up more than once. They had since replied and said that once the construction has been completed, we will meet on site to measure and quantify the areas that will be used in the agreement.
Larry, what is the work being done on the streets?
Mainline replacements.
And is it the entire streets or the portions of those streets or?
Large portions,
Okay.
yeah.
And are they,
So I don't have that information in front of me here, but yeah.
are they notifying residents?
I was told that they were going to in several ways, by robocalls and, sending out notifications. But that's what I was told by the construction supervisor.
Okay. I don't think those are happening.
I understand, and
Yeah.
I'm just telling you what I was told.
Okay, so if we can even follow up to say, actually that's not happening.
I'll let them know. But yeah, that work is scheduled to start on the 15th. And that concludes the engineer's report. No other questions.
For St. Philip's School Zone lights and poles, who does the removal?
We do, Public Works. will
Public
take
Works
care of
does.
that.
Thank you.
Yep.
The natural gas main work, that period falls over Halloween. Is that going to impact, you know, people walking and extra people walking, kids out walking? What is that? Do we know anything about whether things will be left open or uncovered? Do you know what the impact of that will be?
And the only information I have is that it's scheduled between these dates from the 15th till 25th of next month. I don't have a detailed schedule as to what work will take place in the street, what work will take place in the sidewalks. Again, it's something I can reach back out to them and ask them,
I think it's already started,
but
you know,
Okay.
because they're out there.
I understand they're doing some markings, but
I think it's
okay.
started, because all the equipment's there and it's like already started there.
I can reach out to them, ask them what their plan is
Yeah.
for Halloween, so they have what their
Those are some very.
pedestrian traffic controls like.
Yeah.
Blocks.
Sure.
on that
We
day.
can also check on the 30th and go walk the areas where they're actually working on the 30th and double check what the situation is and talk to the PMs at that time and see if there's anything we can do.
If there's anything that's still exposed, I mean, people walking around, they're not as likely to see it at night.
Yeah, okay.
And-
Yeah, we will check back.
Yeah.
Like we said, the communication has not been good, so I think we need to follow up to
Okay.
make sure that this is being
Yeah, we'll-
communicated to residents plus to the project. Like I said, I think it's already started. It looks like it's already
That
started.
should be on Savvy and Facebook too.
Yeah.
Jimmy might be writing that down, but once you have an idea and it's just Savvy Citizen, Facebook it up,
Yeah.
yeah.
Any questions for Larry?
Seats right here.
All right, managers report.
Okay, first zoning update. Thank you all. I know a lot of you were at the open house. We had quite a few people in attendance. So comments from that session have all been compiled and presented to the planning commission. They all went out today. So they have a large memo with all of the different requests, including maps on the areas. And so they're looking at those now. They are having a planning commission working session next Tuesday, October 15th at 6 p.m. in council chambers. And then they are also having the regular planning commission week meeting the following week at 6:30 in council chambers. And then any further discussions, forums or meetings, you know, that are required because of the issues that we're dealing with. So we've provided them with a lot of information so that they can make decisions moving forward. So that's where the zoning update is. Any questions from council?
I encourage, because we've heard some zoning questions tonight, make sure you go to these meetings, express your opinions to them and speak and make sure your voice is heard. relative to those. And if there's changes that weren't made or missed on the documents that you'll see, make sure that we have those if you see them. So we know how important this project is and we want to make sure we're doing it right.
And I don't know that we posted that memo, so I'll make sure we post them. It didn't.
I thought Mike said that it was getting posted.
Okay, I need to double check.
It's very well done and it doesn't have it by resident comment unless it was mutual residents, and they're all in there for the planning commission.
Okay.
From the meeting.
I'll see if
It is posted.
It is.
Yeah, that's
Thanks.
what I'm pretty sure it was posted.
Okay.
So if your comments aren't on there or you didn't attend, make sure you attend these meetings too, that are comments.
Okay. Next is just a brief update. Website is fairly well designed at this point, but there's a lot of connections that have to happen, including our new permitting software. And we are switching to a .gov account. So we're making sure that everything gets lined up first before we make that change. So I anticipate that happening. It probably will be at least a month before that happens. So because we want to make sure that that doesn't crash everything in the process. So that's that. The 2025 budget process schedule is updated. So there's 6 meetings left in the budget workshop series. The next one will be next week, 2 weeks from now before the next council meeting. And at 6 p.m. November 14th after that. And then we did move the November 26th is on a Tuesday because of Thanksgiving. So we have moved that meeting and that did require us to move the planning commission meeting, I think, to that Monday. So I might have misspoke earlier when I said that.
November.
Oh, November, right. I'm sorry. Right. Okay. And then we have the December 12th council budget workshop. And with that concludes my report.
Any questions? Okay. Finance, administration, sustainability, Ms. Perry.
Nothing new to add tonight outside of the fact that next week is our regular finance committee meeting, and we'll be digging into pretty seriously some of the 2 big things about Alcoasand and looking at options so that I would anticipate at our next meeting that we might, next budget meeting, we should have some proposals. Okay, that's it for me.
Infrastructure and land use, Ms. Computaro.
Well, the infrastructure and land use committee also has not met since the last council meeting. The meeting is scheduled for next week, regularly scheduled meeting. Linwood and Noble Parks has been one of the items that we've been discussing. We did get some updated information from DCNR, who gave us the grant, that they would like us to restrict how we wanted to use it a little further than was in our initial application. So we were getting back to them to see if we could maintain the original agreement. But again, the committee has not met, so we'll meet next week and we'll discuss that, and the impacts of that will have impacts on our budget. So that's something that's come up in budget meetings. I did have a conflict tonight, so I'm going to pass it to president or the manager if that has been discussed earlier today.
Yeah, I can say that it was very briefly discussed because of the Alcoasand hit. Really, everything's a little bit in flux right now. So once we get more details on the Alcoasand changes, we've got to dig back into that. Yeah. And we haven't gotten confirmation yet from DCNR whether we can use the match on the other part, so we don't.
So that one's in flux, and we'll have more updates to come as we find out more. That is the only item on my agenda.
Thank you. Planning Commission, Mr. Medilla isn't here. Mr. Price spoke about the working session and the next meeting. I do want to say that the open house for the session, it was tons of energy, everybody talking. It was a great experience. I hope everybody enjoyed it, that was able to attend. And we definitely want to have more of those, and those are the ones that are scheduled. So make sure to come to those meetings and have your voices heard, specifically around the zoning too. All right, communication and recreation, Ms. Bulldog.
Our haunted house tour kicks off on October 19th. It'll have a trunk or treat and vendor pop-up in Crafton Park for the kickoff. That's from 6 to 8 in the park. These are self-guided tours, the haunted house tour. I believe they take donations in return. You get the code that you put on your phone and then you can self-guide. They did close from when you could join, so I hope everybody who wanted to join did. But if you'd like some detail, go to the borough website. I'm sorry, I'm talking about the trunk or treat. If you wanted to join for that, that's closed, but you can sign up and donate for the haunted house tour at any time. So I encourage everybody to do that. We also still have spooky golf. That's still open Fridays and Saturdays through the rest of October, weather permitting. And Halloween itself is occurring on October 31st from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Other upcoming events that I don't have a whole lot of detail on this evening, but I will in the upcoming meetings is the celebration of lights. That's going to happen on Saturday, December 7th. And we are taking houses for the holiday house tour, which will be happening on Sunday, December 15th. And more details to come for both of those. Last but not least, the newsletter is being assembled and will be out in November, sometime before Thanksgiving. And that's all I have for tonight.
I do want to mention about Fall Fest, and formally thank the rec committee for their work on that. That was a really wonderful experience. Having walked around, there was so much to do, seeing all the residents there. And the rec board put all of that together.
Yeah, they do a great job.
There were volunteers. It ran very well, a little bit of rain, but other than that, it was very well done. So formally thanking the rec board for all their hard work. And we know these things just don't happen automatically.
I'll pass that along. They do a lot of work on that, so I'll let them know. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, thank you. Commission vacancies.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of rec board, we recently had someone who needed to resign. So we had conducted interviews leading up to the most recent 2 appointments. So with those interviews, we were able to have a really great candidate to hopefully be able to appoint this evening. So I am looking for a motion to appoint Mandy Garino to the Recreation Board for a new term starting on September 30th, 2024 and expiring on February 28th, 2025.
So
Ms. Wollenbacher. Ms. We're giving up Ms. Compatella. Ms. Compatella. Any discussion or questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes.
Just to mention that on her time, it looks short. It is because, again, it was almost like she was filling a current position and now this person had resigned. So again, this is why it's shorter, but our rec board positions are 4 years. So that's.
Yeah, I noticed, I had in here that it's a new term, so that was my mistake.
That's
It
okay.
was an expiring, it's a
Current.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and we will be having, we'll be working on getting these out, Savvy Citizen, our normal communication channels. Some zoning hearing board, seats are going to be available at the end of this year. So same process, when any time we have an available seat, it's, you can apply on our website. And then there's an interview process, from there. So we will have those towards the end of the year. That's it.
And clarification on the zoning hearing board again is, this is not
Yeah.
the commission that actually does all the zoning, that's the planning commission. This actually is the review if there's any appeals to, or variances that need to happen to zoning. They would go to this board and it's a governing body. It has a separate governance, and here's a part of that too.
Yeah.
All right. Council of Governments. Ms. Bollenbacher.
the only mess is the next meeting will be held this coming Thursday, the 17th at 6:30 in McKees Rocks. If anybody can make it, please let me know so I can RSVP.
Thank you. All right, community announcements. The next council meeting will be Thursday, October 24th at 7 o'clock. A budget workshop starting at 6 o'clock prior to that meeting. We have the Haunted Crafton Driving Tour, which Ms. Bollenbacher had talked about. 19th is Trunk or Treat, and will continue through the 31st. And residents are able to come on the 19th and go round to the cars, so the kids can go all to the cars and collect candy too during the Trunk or Treat. And that'll be in the park. Spectacular mini golf again, on Fridays and Saturdays in October from 7 to 9 for $2. Halloween is October 31st, 6 to 8. Police and fire department will be available during those times. Shade tree front yard. So what this is again, part of our budget and part of being a Tree City USA is that we plant trees in people's front yards because we can no longer plant them in the tree line, which is the mini strip right in front of your yard and the sidewalk. They don't do well. We have lots of instances, as you can see, with trees falling over or not, or starting to die. So what this is you can apply online for a tree in your front yard. We'll plant it. The borough pays for it. We plant it. Public Works plants it. And then the maintenance of that tree is on the resident, the homeowner and the resident. But it is a tree to continue our Tree City USA designation and also to encourage shade and all the benefits that come with having trees. To that point also is our Giving Grove Food Orchard. So next Thursday, October 17th, the Giving Grove and volunteers from Sherwin-Williams will be in Crafton Park from 9:30 till 12:30 p.m., 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m., planting 18 fruit trees in Crafton Park. All the fruit will be donated to the community food bank. And the Giving Grove is paying 100% for the tree planting, the trees, and everything around it. So those will go. We already currently have some apple and peach trees down there. This will be on the right next to them, between the community garden and those current trees there. And election day is Tuesday, November 5th, from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Make sure to check your polling location. So not everybody in this room can go to the same place. I believe there's going to be 4 polling locations. It could be 3. Maybe this time, just make sure to check them. They may not be in the same place that you've always gone before. Any other community announcements?
I do
Yeah.
have one. We put this out on Savvy Citizen. This is not a Crafton particular item, but the PRT bus is doing a redesign of the network. I know this is of interest to a lot of our residents. It's been asked about by some of our residents. So they are going through a network redesign right now. There's a website out. They posted the draft of their network redesign. Won't make major changes to the service here in Crafton, but there are some changes. And if you travel to other neighborhoods, you may find changes that help you or don't help you. So they are soliciting public input. They have information on their website about upcoming public events. And all of those changes are not due to go into effect until 2026. So it won't hit us immediately. But I wanted to have that information out if anyone is curious or seeing those signs or would like to know more.
You know what the website is?
I don't offhand, it's something bus line redesign,
Yeah.
but we can put it out on Savvy Citizen again.
And we'll put it out on Facebook and we'll add it to the website.
Thank you.
One good note about that is we do know that all buses that go through Crafton will be on and off in Crafton, which they currently are not. I didn't get clarity on this, but I think they're even including the 28X, but.
I'm pretty sure they are, and it's draft, so none of those are confirmed, but I'm fairly sure that that won't change.
Okay.
But it won't go into effect until 2026, so don't change your commuting plans yet.
Anything else? All right. Public comments. At this time, citizens may address the Crafton Borough Council on any issue. Only residents and taxpayers of the borough of Crafton will be permitted to address the council. Speakers will be permitted to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes. Groups of people will be required to designate a spokesperson to represent them before council, who may speak for a maximum of 5 minutes. Council has the option to respond or not at the end of the address. The solicitor is still our assigned timekeeper. And please state your name and physical address for the record. Right, so Mr. Sheet.
Sheet 152 Promenade. I promise if I go over 3 minutes, 50 seconds. When I started raising questions about this zoning initiative, I never thought it would turn into the concerted effort that it has. This only raises more questions for me, or more concerns for me, and justifies the thought that citizens feel left out by council.
People in Grafton are tired of feeling like we are not heard. When we ask questions to council, we are not asking Jim Price or Mike Tedesco to answer those questions. We did not vote for Jim or Mike. We are asking the people who we elected to represent us to answer our questions. Most questions about zoning, Mike Tedesco's employment, code enforcement, and much more are typically answered by Jim after he raises his hand and insists he can answer. A lot of times there's no follow-up by any council member, and we feel like council doesn't oversee the administration properly. Though we're happy that Jim has such vigor to be involved, we expect the council will be able to do the job they were elected to do and answer our questions within reason. There's not a legal requirement to have the planning commission recommend a citizen engagement committee or board. There's no real reason that the planning commission should need to recommend that to council. Council can create that committee at will. I implore the council to ensure that this committee is created and that action is taken by the committee and its members to engage the public before any recommendation from the planning commission is accepted by council. The creation of the Citizen Engagement Committee or Board can help ease the tensions between the public and borough officials. It can prevent scenarios like the one we find ourselves in right at this very moment. Members of the Planning Commission have expressed their desire to rebuild trust that has been broken. If this council intends to echo that sentiment, then creating a Citizen Engagement Committee is a good start towards that goal and is a gesture of goodwill to voters and taxpayers. Anything less suggests that you are not willing to do what it takes to create a transparent process. Mike Tedesco has said that there is not a time restraint on this zoning draft. And if that is the truth, then we are asking the council create this committee and allow it to produce legitimate, honest, and rock solid data before this planning commission moves forward with any recommendations regarding zoning. The public would also like to raise questions about oversight. We feel as though council is entrusted administrators with lots of responsibility that includes little oversight. We feel that Jim Price has intimidated citizens with emotional reactions to public comments, has been unprofessional in his role in many different instances, including one where he blew me kisses after a contentious meeting, and that he has a sense of grandiosity over citizens within the borough. Mike has been given many roles that he spelled out in the borough's Facebook post about him. He's running code enforcement, rewriting zoning drafts, running community and economic development, is the planning commission's administrator, the borough's social media manager, as well as many other roles. Who assigned him these roles? Who's in charge of Grafton's inner workings? Who oversees employments? Who makes decisions? And if it's council, then what is council's intentions with this effort? We want to hear a clear and detailed explanation of what it is that council is trying to achieve with this zoning draft. We don't want to hear that you want to allow housing and business development to flourish. We want to know specific details of what exactly that means, and we want it in writing. We simply cannot and will not accept gray areas in a zoning draft that can potentially change the fabric of how Grafton looks and functions. As elected officials, it is your duty to serve the public with unwavering dedication to good principles and practices. The journey towards trust between council and the community can start right now. I hope you do the right thing to create that trust. Thanks.
David wanted to address any of the comments?
Yeah, just at the risk of, sometimes it helps to take a high level and break things down a little bit, and I like to use analogies a lot. Government is not a corporate entity, but if you can relate it in some ways, Jim is essentially the CEO. He's hired to steer the ship. Council is essentially there to tell the captain where we want the ship to go. He makes recommendations about the course that we should take. We can take that advice or ask him otherwise. But ultimately, when it comes down to, we are not the ones running it. We've hired Jim to run it. He has to ask us for the things. But ultimately, understanding the power dynamic of how the government functions is important. So when questioning why Jim answers things, it's because he has that CEO role. We have given him that role. He can't do things unless we say yes, though. But ultimately, day in and day out, his job is to steer the ship.
Cameron, you're gonna say something?
I mean, I was gonna say, I feel like when you say that and then you say we don't speak, I feel obligated to say something. I feel like when a lot of the questions that have been raised about zoning and the concerns, I feel like we've done a good job of, I feel like most people in this room might feel differently. It was a rocky start, but the process has been explained multiple times about, it started in 2018 or 2019, and it had a steering committee and a planning commission, and a lot of the concerns have been directed to the planning commission. And we are here working and we will gather those recommendations from the planning commission. And that recommendation to me is being vetted by them. It's taking all of your feedback. So I feel like when we sit in this room and there's a lot of you know, I'll say passion. I won't say anger, passion. It's a process, and everyone has said, we are not rushing this process. So we are collecting information. There is open houses. There are these forums for you to express your concerns. And there is a committee that is collecting that information. It has been said numerous times, no one is rushing this decision. So that's why it's wonderful to see all of you here. My first year, there was one person in this room and it was great. So, I mean, it's lovely to see so many people, but I know, you know, John has said this, like, but remember, with all that passion, we are also your neighbors. So we want the best for this community, but when you're forced, you know, we listen, we're taking your feedback, we hear it, we see it. But there is processes in place, and I have full faith in our borough manager and Mike Tedesco. So I know they hear you, they hear us, and they're doing the best with the direction, like Mike has said, that we are giving them. So I feel obligated to say something because we just got pointed out that we are a group that likes to, I would say, marinate on things before speaking quickly, because we all know we live in a world where anything we say will instantly be used and however one wants to interpret it. So I don't know how fair that can be, but we are elected to be a voice. But remember, as elected people, we are also human beings and your neighbors. So we take that with grace and the responsibility, but I truly feel like this group of individuals is doing the best that they can. And we are listening and we are not rushing. And there is a committee in place to take the feedback that you all have been giving. And they're having an open house. They're having a planning meeting. And as a council member, when they finally come to us, after it's been vetted through the county in this long timeline, I will have full faith in what they bring to us because they have done the work for months, let's not years, collecting that information. So I'll say something just because I feel like I have to, but I have full faith in this council. I have full faith in the borough manager. I just like to say we are neighbors, and a lot of misinformation, choose to feel how you want to feel about those things. But I have faith in the work that we're doing, and I believe in the work that we're doing. And what I want for Crafton is walkability, which we're working on. I love my street. I live on Division Street. I have no issues with Division Street. I want more blue snails, more fig trees, and however I feel like we can get us there, I'm all for. So.
I would like to say one thing about this council. Many of you know that I was on council for 6 years before I became mayor. So I have experienced a number of councils in my 9.5 years here. And I have developed so much respect for this council. Almost everyone here is on their first term, but there has been almost everything, whether it was the logo, whether it was the zoning, no matter what it is, they have asked, how do we get community input? They are listening. They're respectful. They, as you say, marinate on things and really are trying hard to make sure that where this council, where this government, where this municipality is going is a good place. That's all I can say. I respect this council so much for that.
Honestly, there's not much I can say that hasn't already been said. So I don't want to spend a lot of time to reiterate. I just genuinely want to say, whether y'all believe it or not, we truly don't have personal agendas. We actually want to do what you want us to do. Now, we're never going to make everybody happy because there's some people who want completely opposite things, but we're genuinely trying to do the best we can by all of you. I hope you take that to heart, whether you believe me or not. I can't make it.
I could say I appreciate the suggestion. I think that is a good idea for us to consider and for us to talk about. So I appreciate that you brought up that, and I think that we can absolutely see, you know, what works and consider that as council. But I also want to, as some of the others have said, identify that we have staff that we rely on. We have our borough manager. We have Mike Tedesco. We have other borough staff that we rely on because we are not full-time staff. We are not able to be as attentive and as responsive every hour of the day as our full-time staff are. And I appreciate the work that they're doing. And I also really appreciate the work that the Planning Commission is doing. And I would like everyone here to understand that although this zoning process started before Jim's time, it actually started before my time on council too. It also started before most of our current planning commissioners, because those rules change over time. And the important thing that I hope we all remember is that we had a consultant write this, and we no longer have that consultant. We no longer have that consultant because we extended the process so long to add additional meetings and additional steering committee meetings, additional open house. And we can absolutely continue to extend that. But I want to acknowledge on behalf of our planning commissioners that they are not professionals and they no longer have the guidance of a professional consultant to help them. So the more changes we try to talk about, they're in a very difficult position as a volunteer set of committee members, of planning commissioners who are trying to deal with very complex legal issues that impact your legal rights. And they're trying to make smart choices. And they're doing their best, but please be cognizant of that fact. They no longer have a professional consultant guiding them, and they do have work that was provided to them and vetted through a firm that has legal zoning expertise. So I know we have many different opinions, and I am no longer a part of the process. We have fully passed this to the Planning Commission, but please respect the position that they're in as well. Those are volunteers, and they're doing a really tough job right now.
Yes, I feel obligated to say something, but I definitely want to first thank you for the council on these comments. I think from a public's perspective, it is, I feel humbled to work with this group. And I'm not just saying that, but it is a council that really cares about the community. And I was on the prior council and it was contentious. There were personal agendas. I'm being very transparent and frank. And it was uncomfortable because people had their own initiatives that they were driving versus what the community wanted. Now I can tell you, I know me personally, I spend 2 to 4 hours a day on council business and a full-time job. The council is reading all of the notes, the minutes to get to even this meeting, but also all the other behind the scenes things that happen. There's a lot that goes into a borough, from skunk management to our road pavings to infrastructure projects, government relations, public works. I could go on. And that's why we need our staff to be able to do that. Council cannot step into every single issue and handle all of those issues. It has to be our staff. And we do have a very strong staff with not only Jim and Mike and Larry that we've talked about, but we have our code enforcement folks who have been with us for a very long period of time. We have our public works, who is also part of our volunteer fire department, who do an incredible job. We have our police force with no turnover. And those all gentlemen are very dedicated to what they do, and they do an excellent job. I think we have to look at all those things and say, wow, we're really lucky to live here in Crafton, because we have people that care about our community. There's not personal agendas, and we have strong people that are working on those day-to-day things for a relatively small community. We only have 6,000 residents for one square mile. So I think as we look at these things, Cody's suggestion of the committee, I think is a really good one. And we don't want to create something that is now another body that has everybody's opinion in it, because we also want to hear from everybody. So if you're not a part of that committee, does that mean you don't have an opinion? But it's certainly something that we, as a supplement to everything else that we hear from the community, is something positive that we can certainly consider. So I charge for, as we go on, let's look at what that would look like. So obviously somebody would have to be a leader of that committee. We would have to have some groups. How do you recruit people for it? All of those kind of things we look at. We just can't have a committee that we bring forward. And what would be the governance of that committee? So I appreciate those insights and that information. I think that's it, unless, yeah, Mr. Bosniak.
Greg Wozniak, 1773 Bar Avenue. First off, I want to say that I don't think anybody in this audience has anything against any of you. I think we all like you. We all respect you. We all respect the work that you do for us. You, please don't get the attitude that this community is against the council. There has been a flip, though. There's been two people that have brought some policies and are pushing some policies that are getting the public involved. They're not here to beat up council. We're not here to beat up council. We're here to bring our concerns to council and to committees. Nobody's here is personally attacking anybody here. There might be two people that are being attacked and in some reasons, in some ways for good reason. But I want you guys all to know, and I think I speak for the community, that you guys as council, our planning commission, nobody has anything against any of those people. We all respect you. We respect the job you're doing. We respect the time you have to put into it. We are just bringing our voices to you so that you know how we feel, and that this has been flipped by two individuals. And I think that I hope you guys don't look at us as being the villains here, because we all respect you. And I you know, I'm sure everybody in here agrees with me. So don't take it out on us, and we're not taking it out on you. So I just wanted to defend, to try to set it straight that nobody's against you guys. I mean, I'll go out and have a beer with any one of you guys, a tea, a water, whatever you drink, but I'll go out and have anything with you guys. No, not a problem. So, but just want to let you guys know that. And Cody's bringing up a lot of points that people don't bring up, and the community is hearing his points, and they're behind him, or they're not behind him in some, or all, whatever. The community, Cody's working his butt off too. So, anyway, we're just bringing our concerns to you and to the planning commission, but those are just concerns. We have nothing against any one of you guys.
Thank you. You got sure.
John Meehan, 56 Bradford Avenue. National member.
What was your last name?
Former.
No, your last name.
Meehan.
Meehan.
MEIGHAN. And again, former council member, school board member, planning commission member. And I agree with the last gentleman. It really is nothing personal to you elected officials. However, I will push back a little bit on the process did begin years ago, but it's only within the last hiring of a new individual that it's really been fast tracked. And to suggest that an incomplete zoning ordinance should be sent to the county for review before we even see a final draft, at least in my opinion, substantiates the fact that although it has been a long process, it has been fast tracked. Now, Mr. Oliverio, as a council president, you seem to agree with what Mr. Sheets suggested. So, because I don't know how that process would work, could you explain to me how you now, as the president of this council, will let the community know whether or not you're being heard by this committee? And if so, what the process will be like going forward from this night on? Thank you.
Okay, sure. So again, whenever you start any type of committee or look at a committee, there's a lot of things that go into that factor. So again, hearing about it, we have to digest it, we have to discuss it as a council, and then make a decision on what it would look like going forward. And remember that part of that committee is, if I'm not on the committee, does that mean I don't have a voice? And that's what we want to avoid, because we want to make sure that the people on that would be a part of any of that committee would have a voice of the entire thing. And maybe it's people that can flow in and out of it. I mean, those are all things that we have to look at. And again, we just brought it up, and this would be a council decision.
Well, I'm not suggesting if you weren't on, and you brought this up, I'm not suggesting if you weren't on the committee that you wouldn't have a voice. We're not on the council. You have our voice. So I believe that if a committee were formed by people who wanted to be vetted and put on the committee, that the vast majority of the people that I've noticed in the last 2 months will not look at it as though their voices are being not looked at or not heard. So again, what would the process look like? Do you intend to take this up as a council in a session, or are we gonna come back, 2 weeks from now and ask the same question?
Right, so again, we're hearing about it, our council is hearing about it tonight, so. We have to look at it, the next meeting that we have, we certainly can discuss it. It's not something that can be discussed in executive session, so it has to be discussed in public due to Sunshine Act, so we can put it on the agenda for our next meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Elizabeth Marinella, 2 Lawson. I think the previous gentleman was asking, or what I would like to ask is like, can we get the Schoolhouse Rock version of how do you create a new committee? What is a realistic time frame? Like we heard some people start out with, well, I gave you suggestions last week, why isn't it in the draft? It can be hard for people who don't know what the process is to tell the difference between the process working as it has to versus we're being ignored. So walk us through the steps to decide A, if a new committee could be created, and B, what would have to happen to do that, and what realistic timeframes it looks like. I think that might help some of the perception that people aren't heard.
Okay, yeah, so there are standard committees that every government needs to have. So things like the planning commission, zoning commission, those ones are standard. This would be one that isn't. So I refer to Steve to say what would be the official process besides what we've done.
This would be an ad hoc committee, so in my view, it probably is something that we would not have to pass an ordinance for. But if council were so inclined, we would pass a resolution establishing the committee, and the resolution would have the details, which that's where the devil lies. How many members, what is their power, what can they do or not do, right? All those sorts of things. So that's where the work really lies. I mean, it's one thing to decide as a group that you want to do it, but putting it together, that'll be the work. So on a realistic time frame, I would say, because resolutions don't have to be advertised in advance, etc., that it could be 30 to 60 days on a fast track.
Yes.
Sandy Morris, 1781 Bar Avenue. And you brought up that we are now not working with a company that specializes in zoning, and we're changing this zoning on our own. At what point is there whether this, our solicitor here, or who legally looks at all this to make sure we're good before it even goes to the county? How do we do that now if we don't have that company working with us?
This is a concern for me.
Me too.
Yeah, unless you engage somebody, I think it falls to me and to my office.
Okay, so that would happen before it goes to the county?
That would be my recommendation, yes, because if there are any things that are problematic, they need to be raised and addressed before sending it, because once you send it, and you'd have to send it back again if you change something of a material base. You can change commas or periods or whatnot, renumber things, but any material changes, you'd have to resubmit to the county, and it starts the 45-day clock again.
Okay, and if I may ask, what does the county do with it? What is their review? What is their purpose?
They are under the NPC, they have an obligation to review the ordinance and provide us with their comments, how it aligns with their comprehensive plan, as well as any observations that they may have from their zoning experience, legal or just in general. They usually issue a letter that, if it's a full zoning review like ours, it will be several 10, 20 pages long. It will be very thorough. If we would do a small zoning update, which we do on occasion, usually get a 1 or 2 pager at that point. So it'll be a thorough, they really do a nice job in reviewing it. So sometimes they have raised issues in communities that I have done work in where you want to address it. And so it starts the process over again. So, oh, they did raise, that's a good issue. We didn't think about that. So let's change the ordinance and send it back.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Sandy.
There's someone online. Mr. Corbell, could you give me a little clarification? It was my understanding at the last planning commission meeting, voting meeting, that they voted to retain a separate attorney other than you.
The planning commission?
The planning.
Yes. I mean, if that's what council wants them to do, sure, they could do that.
No, my understanding is they voted in the affirmative.
That's true.
So does that mean, following up with this young lady, does that mean that it would be that attorney that would review their policies, their suggestions, and not you?
Well, I would not review it until it came to the council level.
Okay.
So that person, if they engage somebody, that would be done before I look at it.
All right.
If council wants me to look at it, which I think they probably will.
Well, we would hope that the planning commission, which is obviously, a dedicated body such as all of you, will hire somebody competent enough that before you would review it, there wouldn't be
Much to
many problems.
I would hope so as well.
Great. Jane, you do have some people online too that have been related.
Sorry, James Sweeney, 25 Linden. Mr. Corbell, you said that when it goes to the county to be reviewed,
Mhm.
if, this is what I think I heard.
Yeah.
If it didn't line up with what the county's objectives were, they could send it back to us.
No, they just compare it to what their general planning goals are, and they'll just mention that we have our plan. And this aligns with it, or it does not. You should consider X, Y, or Z. It's really up to us or the council, if they want to consider that input or not. As it relates to their plan. So if they respond with a legal issue, then council will ask. And I will, give them an analysis, and then they can decide. But the county's letter is advisory only. It's like the planning commission is a recommending body.
So Sarah couldn't just send back and say, nope, this doesn't meet with what I want to do.
Who?
Sarah Inamorado, the county.
Oh, she doesn't have anything to do with the review process. They have a secondary.
Body that.
It's the county economic development department. And they usually have contracted engineers look at it and respond.
They all do report to Sarah, the county executive.
I don't know what the reporting requirement is for a contractor that's contracted by the County Department of Economic Development. I don't know who they report to. I don't know the answer to that.
It would just seem to me she would be in charge, so, but what I want
The county's plan is not been changed to my knowledge. Their planning documents, those were created under the past administration, and those are the guiding documents.
My point is that they couldn't just put a mix on this because it didn't go with what they're pushing right now.
No, they can't, they're advisory, right? So they can't require us to include anything or, nix the ordinance if they don't like it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
James, then we'll get the people too online that have been waiting. Raise their hand.
Hi, super short. James Bang, 96 Sierra Street. Will that document be public? So like the recommendation that the county makes, is that public to us?
Yes.
Okay.
Some notes. We'll go with the first person. Is it Bernadette Landon? Can she speak?
Hello, can you hear me?
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, not yet.
Can you hear me okay? Okay.
We'll come
I-
back.
Just kind of a comment. Can you hear me okay?
Looks like she's talking, but I can't hear her.
Bernadette, we can't
loudly.
hear you. Hold
Looks
on.
like our sound, if you look at
Hello?
our sound is muted.
Are you there?
Ask her to start over once we have sound.
There you go. Bernadette, try again.
Okay, yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So, kind of just a comment. When my son was 18 years old, he got a girlfriend. And he was so devastated because the girlfriend's dad didn't trust him, didn't have faith in him. Sometimes people just have questions. I'm a teacher. Having questions doesn't mean that we don't have faith in you or don't trust you, but we have questions. So please don't dismiss us for having questions. Second, this morning I woke up to heavy construction equipment in my driveway because our driveway leads into the turnaround on Belvedere Street. Oh, by the way, we're at 60 Belvedere. I'm supposed to tell you that. And, I know that's necessary. Gas lines, for God's sake. There were these horrible, we just had fatalities in the Pittsburgh area because of gas lines. I get it. So I don't mind the construction. What I'm saying is, before we start doing heavy construction on a very, very narrow street with one-sided parking, it's not wrong for us to ask you questions. We're not disrespecting you. I hope you can hear me telling you back, we're not disrespecting you. That's all.
Thank you.
Mhm.
There construction going on Belvedere?
They're tearing up gas lines right in the
Oh.
turnaround that go down the very city, right to the city steps.
Check the
Gas lines, energy. We couldn't get out of well, thank God my husband had already left the garage, but it blocked our garage.
Yeah, okay, so we will take that as an action item to check on what's, because we know.
It's okay. I don't want the gas line to explode. I don't mind that. What I'm saying is,
Well,
you start, if they start messing with the Methodist church and turning it into apartments, my God, what's going to happen to our little street?
right, so, but your point of there being construction on that street and us not being aware of it and or notifying residents, obviously is a concern. That's the big concern. We definitely want to get the gas line.
Yeah, I mean, how much notice can they give you if they think there's a gas leak? They got to show up. I want them to show up. If they tell you after and ask for an apology, I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
They are supposed to let us know.
Yeah.
They don't have to let us know much in advance, especially if it's an emergency.
Of course.
Complain every time. We take those complaints every time. We act on them each time. They don't always tell us, and they're supposed to, and we don't like it either, and we push back every time we know about it. So
I just, this is not a complaint. That's not I'm not making a complaint. I'm just letting you know that there was an emergency today. Traffic was crazy. What if they were really taking the Methodist church, the old Methodist church, and doing major construction on this street for God knows how long? How is that going to affect our traffic, our parking, our infrastructure? It's not a complaint about today. I want them to fix the gas line. That's all.
Thank you. And the point taken for us is that we've made it clear to the utilities, they have to notify us if they're going to do work, whether it's temporary work or something going on. So we need to find out, and Bernadette's brought that to our attention. Then, of course, in the future, we need to make sure that the residents are getting notified and that we have traffic patterns and everything else, which we talked about with the park in North Emily and North Lynn. Okay, thank you. Next is Nicole Curran.
Hello,
Hello.
can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so Nicole Curvin, 184 South Grandview. Just wanted to say, as the person who came up with the community engagement committee idea and ran it by some of you, I just want to say that I will, as promised, definitely provide you with a copy of what, as an expert in research methods and community engagement, that I would suggest is best practice for such a committee, and that could help you determine what the objective and functions of it could be. And then you can decide how you want to develop it or execute on that as it fits the needs of the borough, just to be helpful with my expertise. For those folks who haven't heard of this, the idea was to provide a plan for comprehensively engaging the whole community using best practice from community engagement, stakeholder management, research methods, and survey design. And this document I'm working on would provide strategies for ensuring that anytime there's a project, it's easier for the council or any committee to collaborate on getting a representative sample from the community that will support a clear understanding of what the community wants and needs, and that will serve as a source for data-driven decision-making and maybe also as a channel for regular communication. So this committee would be designed to serve any project or initiative in the borough and can be used on an ongoing basis. I promise I will provide that document soon. I'm grateful for your interest in it, and do with it what you will.
Thank you, and please do provide that to us. You have our contact information, and you met with some of us too at the open house. So
I did, thank you.
thank you, Nicole. Right. You have an, Kristen Schuley. Kristen
She muted, Mike.
is muted.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
So I just wanted to let everybody know, to reiterate what John was speaking about. We on North Emily, Coulter, and I forget the other street that's going to be impacted, but we were not notified by the gas company. There was no robocall, nobody came to the door, we didn't get an email. I believe it was sometime this weekend, the large construction equipment and the porta potty showed up at the bend by the busway, and then they've been working on Coulter for a couple days now.
Kristen, can you give us your address?
I would prefer not to, just because these are public videos that are then posted on YouTube where anybody can access them. I've spoken about this several times where I think it's a security concern. I'm happy to provide my address to everybody through email.
I can confirm she is definitely a Crafton resident.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we do have that as an action item for tomorrow, and making sure that people are getting notified what is the project plan for now. It looks like a couple gas projects. Okay. Steve Rusenko.
Yep, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, this is Steve Crescenzo, 79 Duncan. I'm here with my wife, Barb Basic. Just wanted to make a general comment that we saw the list of comments from last week's public meeting. And although our names were not attributed to a couple of the comments that we provided, the comments were included therein. But moreover, I wanted to say I appreciate Ms. Perry's time in listening to our concerns. One of our concerns was the increased traffic, which could result from some of the zoning changes. And this is based on our current conditions where we see people going the wrong way down our street, speeding down our street and whatnot. And, with this last week, we've seen the local police here 3 days out of this week. So we appreciate her taking those comments to heart and taking them to the police department to help, alleviate a problem that we've been seeing here locally. So, we look forward to being, continue our engagement here with the planning commission meeting next week. And we appreciate being heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
I think they left.
I think they just left.
Oh. Okay. All right. Anybody else online? Anybody else online? Oh, sure.
Karen Volunteer, 50 Park Street. I just have a question. I know, it's probably been rehabbed. It's been talked about before, but I just want to clarity on it. If they're changing the zoning, if they're gonna change from neighborhood to community, what does that mean as far as what would be permitted to be built in the empty lot? I understand community would be either single family dwelling, duplexes, townhouses, or multi-family dwellings. Is that correct?
That's correct.
What is a multi-family dwelling?
A multifamily dwelling can be an apartment building, really is an apartment building in any form.
An apartment building?
Yep.
Okay, what's the height, is there a height limit on that? How?
And that, if it's CR, I think it's 40 feet or 45 feet.
It's 3 stories.
3 stories, yeah.
I don't want to give a definitive answer since it's been the planning commission and has had changes.
Yeah, but that hasn't changed yet, yeah.
I thought it was 3 stories, but
I think it's 3
that's
stories.
just what I recall.
I thought I had heard 5, but you think it's 3.
No, it's definitely not 5. It's either 2.5 or 3, and I think it's 3.
And I'm concerned with the lot on Park Street and the turn where the little Park Street School.
School, yeah, with 3 lots. 3 lots.
And I was trying to find out who owned that property. Is there any way we can locate who owns it?
Yeah, I mean, it's on Allegheny County's website. You can type in the address to Allegheny County. Do you know?
Not on it.
Yeah, it's not on.
Not on it.
The owner?
I have a flat file, unfortunately, it's not on it.
Oh,
bro.
No, bro.
No, we do not own it.
And
It is, so our prior president, Philip Lavasser, talked to. I'm going to be involved in the development, but he talked to the owner. And I believe they live in Carnegie, live in California.
I don't know, I'll get the answers.
Yeah, and
We'll get the answers.
the 5 lots that some of them are on Park.
oh, on the back. in front.
Yeah, it's where the school used to be.
There's one name's Pat McShane and I forget the other guy's name.
That's right, that's the name.
There was somebody taking. Like clearing it, I saw just half of it earlier in the spring, but.
So I figured they have to be taxes, somebody should know who owns that property.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
So Karen, were you notified about the construction?
No, I was not.
Are you on the one end of Park?
I'm on the lower end of Park. I know they're working on Coulter. We heard trucks driving up and down Park today, but we were not there about that.
Anybody else? With that, it is 8:28 and meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.